Ghost of the Deep is the latest dungeon added to Destiny 2, and it's a banger of a dungeon in my opinion. With that being said, let's get into the guide. Before talking about the encounters themselves, I like to point out some general tips to make your life much easier in the first place, especially if you're going to try Flawless by yourself solo at some point. First is the 100 resilience, pretty standard. Higher resilience, less damage taken. Pretty straightforward, right? Then follow that up by rocking a Void and an Arc Resist mod on your chest piece, as all the deadly enemies in this dungeon will be trying to kill you with one of these elements, either the bosses with Arc or Void. For characters, you can run whatever you'd like, but recommendation-wise, Warlocks, unsurprisingly, you get stuck on Well Duty. Hunters have a great kit on Arc and Void for this dungeon, and Titans can run Solar, Void, or Arc, depending on which encounter it is. Strand Titans also, of course, are very strong as well if you're just going for survivability, but not heavy on the damage. First encounter is the Hive Ritual. You can start this by locating the door in the center of the arena, and then loading up on ammo and super from the rally flag. Killing the door knights will start the encounter and will trigger ad waves to start spawning in. One of these waves will contain an ogre spawn. There's two notable buffs for this encounter, Deep Sight and Vestige of Light. First, let's talk about Vestige. To acquire this, you will need to kill the before mentioned ogre, and then the trail that it leaves behind on the ground will lead you into a particular direction. It's the same direction that the ogre spawns in, by the way, if you keep track of that. For the trail, think Season of the Hunt. If you played during that, the trail is exactly the same as Wrathborn Hunt, so maybe that helps you. Follow the trail into the appointed direction, and you will be getting greeted by acolytes and wizards as you progress further and further, mostly orange bar acolytes, and eventually you'll hit an endpoint where there will be a symbol in the sky for you to memorize. It's a hive symbol, plus one final wave of hive, and a hive lightbearer spawning in with them. Once you defeat the hive lightbearer and finish off their ghost, you will acquire the Vestige of Light buff. With this buff, plus the symbol that you just saw, you need to head back to the center of the map, and it'll be now occupied by more enemies, including a wizard to kill. When you down the wizard, this will reveal the Deep Sight buff on the ground, where you scan that to activate it, and by doing that, you will start seeing symbols pop up on the statues that are around you. Dunk your Vestige of Light into the correct statue showing your symbol to progress the encounter. Once this is done, and the Deep Sight buff has hit 0, a new ogre will spawn in one of the directions around you. Rinse repeat this process until you have dunked 4 times to complete this encounter. The next section between now and boss number 1 is just simple traversing and platform jumping, nothing too complicated. Just stay the course, look for holes in walls if you happen to get lost, and use the oxygen bubble tanks as frequently as you can when you're in the water. Final note on this part is there's a secret chest for you to grab towards the end of the platforming section as you are exiting the water portion and you're now on land again. Depending which portal you took, you will either end up in front of the chest directly, or you will take the right portal, which will put you under that chest on the right-hand side of the bottom floor. If you happen to take the right side and ended up on the bottom level of the floor, that's okay. Don't worry about it, not a big deal. Simply just look to your left-hand side, look at the platforming above you, get up there, and then just turn around backwards as if you just came from that side, and the portal will be right there with the chest on the ground right next to it. Once you reach the next checkpoint, you've arrived at the first boss. The boss fight will be a 2-floor fight, one above ground floor, and then one underwater, well, under you. Here you'll be using the Deep Sight mechanic once again and combining it with rune reading. The runes are the same hive symbols you've been seeing so far, except there's just more of them. The objective to this fight is quite literally to read the rune on either the left-hand side or the right-hand side, or maybe both, and memorize 3 symbols on the top floor. To start this process, you will need to start by just killing enemies, more specifically the blistering knights in the back of the room, near the statues, which we'll get to in a second. Once the knights are downed, an ogre will spawn in their place. After defeating the ogre, you'll be able to activate Deep Sight at the center of the room, and the boss will then leave the top of the arena and go underwater. Once you've used Deep Sight and have memorized the 3 symbols on the wall, one at a time, or maybe all at once, depending if you're playing solo or with a team, you will then be tasked with taking one of the several water spots on the floor in the arena to go underwater. Once there, you will need to look around and search for the correct ruins, as well as trying to avoid the boss as best as you can, because the boss hitting you actually takes away a lot of your oxygen. There will be, of course, bubbles for you to pick up to regain your oxygen, so you don't just immediately drown, but I would like to say avoid the boss at all times, if possible. Now, once you're down there and you find the correct ruin, you simply just float back to the fan portion of the underground, which will take you back up to the center of the boss arena once again. Now, once you activate a symbol downstairs in one of the ruins, a wizard pops up on the top floor of the arena, and this wizard is how you acquire the Vestige of Light buff once again in this boss fight. So ideally, you can pick up all 3 symbols downstairs underwater if you have, multiple players, or you're just fast by yourself and activate them and have all 3 wizards up at a time. Or if you like to play safe, you just do 1 symbol at a time, and then 1 wizard will come up at a time. Either way, you kill the wizard, you get Vestige of Light, and then you would use this Vestige of Light on any of the 3 statues in the back of the room. It doesn't matter which one to use. However, you probably want to save the right or left one for last, as it's closer to the center of the room, which is where the DPS portion will take place anyway. Once you've successfully dunked all 3 of the symbols into the statues, the damage phase will begin at the front of the room. The boss will spawn as he did to start the encounter, but this time there will be an Arc Yellow Bar Knight spawning with him. Kill this knight to get the Ritual Conductor buff, which will allow you to break Echtar's immunity shield. I'm probably butchering that, but it is what it is. And then it'll allow you to damage him. At this point, you can roll out the standard red carpet for DPS. Wall of Radiance, Tether, Gathering Storm, Thunder Crash, whatever your choice may be. It's not critical to have one particular thing, but some things do help. If you can manage it, use Legend of Acreus to hit the boss, because it hits like an absolute truck in this encounter, and you can actually one-phase him just using Legend of Acreus, or if you happen to not do that, it will be a comfortable 2-phase. If you don't have Acreus, you can opt to use whatever you like at your disposal. Just note that precision weapons might be hard to hit on this boss as he moves around all the time, unless of course you use Divinity. And if you aren't using Divinity, you might want to stick to range burst weapons such as fusion rifles, or just get close with swords. Additionally, you could use rockets, but you'd have to place your well at a particular spot where you have some distance away from the boss where you can safely rocket him and not just blow yourself up with your own rocket. Final note, if you did not one-phase, the encounter does not really change at all after that. You simply just repeat the same process, get the damage phase, and then down the boss to collect the loot. After completing the first boss encounter, you will go into another underwater platform section. The exit will be to the right side wall if you're looking towards the front of the arena. Once you go underwater, stick to the right-hand side to proceed. Eventually, you will hit a portion where there will be plenty of hive enemies in a tilted room, including annoying shriekers, and an ogre at the very end. Once you get to the end and defeat that ogre, there's a secret chest directly above you where that ogre was defeated. Jump up there, get some fresh loot, and then head into the hole in the ground that will lead you to the final boss arena. You've now arrived at the final boss arena, and I'm going to butcher this boss's name, I'm sure, but I'm going to try anyway, so bear with me. I believe it's pronounced Simuma, but lore masters, feel free to correct me. Anyway, this Necromancer is the final boss. For this boss fight, you'll be utilizing the same symbol knowledge that you learned previously and combining that with an added mechanic for this boss fight. For this particular encounter, in terms of damage, it will all depend on how confident you are in using precision weapons or something like rockets. Due to the boss being a wizard-type enemy, she tends to move around quite a bit, and even has a teleport mechanic built in, which could end up being, disastrous for you depending on what you're using. So if you feel confident in your rocket aim, feel free. Otherwise, for most people, I believe you're better off using things like Izanagi, Control Burst, Rewind, Fusion Rifles, Sleeper Simulant, Legendary Linears, Storm Chaser, Cataclysmic, etc., or just straight up Thunderlord to beam her down if you want to do that as well. It's all up to preference and how much you want to optimize your damage. Well and Tether are of course huge for this, but if you have more than one Hunter or more than one Warlock, you probably want one of them to switch to a damage type super. Titans for this final encounter, your best bet is either bonk everything to death with Solar Syntho Hammers, or stick to the old reliable Thunder Crash for extra damage, assuming you of course have a well, because Bubble otherwise will be pretty ineffective here. Again, Strand Titans are very strong, but this is only if you feel like your survivability needs improvement and not more damage. The encounter begins once you kill the ghost in the center of Oryx's head. That's a weird line to say out loud now. The fight starts with many hive spawning in the room, tons of acolytes, plus a Boomer Knight in 3 parts of the arena. Big shout out to Aggressector here, by the way, just freezing everything up. If you need great ad control, that's definitely a recommended weapon. Next, you'll need to activate Deep Sight. This will trigger a triangle to spawn in the room that'll be connected to Oryx's body. So for reference, you can call these whatever you want, however you want. I'm just going to label them the way they're written in game for simplicity's sake. So there's Oryx's head, Oryx's heart, top left arm, top right arm, and the legs. The triangle will connect to 3 of these points. Use Deep Sight to see which 3 of these it is, and then head over to any of these locations. Now, you may have noticed a knight that keeps chasing you in the room as you do this, named Warlos, I don't know. You need to specifically kill this knight while inside the ritual circle on one of these connected points to Oryx, and have the ritual conductor buff active. For example, we stand in the ritual circle at the heart of Oryx because that is one of the connection points, and now you need to kill Vorlos, and the fight will announce his death, and then the wizard will teleport to that spot. Also, quick note, the knight doesn't actually have to be in the ritual circle, only you have to be in there, or your fire team member, and have the conductor buff, and then you just shoot the knight from wherever. Now, once the Necromancer does teleport to you, you can look at the triangle shape once again. you will notice there's two particular symbols on the lines. One is a circle, and the other is the Taken King icon. You must align the two between two diamond points in order for the wizard to give you a symbol. For example, we will kill Vorlos at the heart of Oryx, then we'll see the two symbols connected between Oryx's heart and his right arm. One player goes over to the right arm and stands in that ritual spot until the Necromancer places a symbol on Oryx's heart. Once that is done, the part of the triangle is over, and now Vorlos will once again respawn. You will need to do this again 2 more times with the other 2 triangle points. After successfully doing all 3 hive symbols, there will be 3 of them in the sky now, same ones you've seen throughout the dungeon. Memorize these as a fire team or individually, and once you do, there'll be water portals for you to take in the arena. Now, there's technically 6 of them in the arena, 2 left, 2 middle, 2 right, but each pair leads only to 1 room. So for example, there's 2 portals on the left-hand side that'll lead you to the same room to kill the same Hive Lightbearer boss, and then the exit will be the same way. So, you just divide yourself between, hey, I'll go left, I'll go middle, I'll go right, or just have one person take all 3 if you wish. That's up to you. Now, once you get into one of these rooms, there's a bunch of acolytes to kill, as well as, like I mentioned, a Hive Lightbearer. It'll either be a wizard or one of those purple sentinel Hive Knights that throw the shields. Once you're in this room, make sure, before you finish off the ghost of this Hive Lightbearer, that you memorize your symbol that's in the sky next to them. Because once you finish the ghost, the symbol disappears, and then you're going to be like, well, guys, what's my symbol now? At this point, just head back into the middle room. You need to clear some enemies, and once again, use Deep Sight located in the room. The reason for this is because Deep Sight activates an orb under the 3 symbols in the room, and this is what gives you the ability to dunk into them to complete your symbol. Once your team has dunked all 3, the damage phase will begin. However, there is something important to note here. If possible, you should make sure that your team finishes the top left arm or Oryx's heart as the final symbol that you're dunking in. The reason for this is there's a recommended damage spot that I think works very well for the boss and can make your life much, much easier. You'll see it on screen, I'm sure, but the location is right by the left hand, and it'll give you a great angle on the boss regardless of where she may teleport next. One more huge tip here, Arbalest can one-shot her immune shield, so if you're struggling to get her shield down quickly, absolutely just have someone use Arbalest to one-shot it and take it down instantly, and then you can just start the damage phase. That's it in a nutshell. If you don't down the Necromancer in one phase, no big deal. The encounter loop will restart again, and you just rinse repeat the process to complete the boss fight and stop Oryx from getting resurrected. Hopefully, this guide has helped, and if you guys enjoyed the video, like, share, subscribe. It does help the channel. Much appreciated. Maybe hit the notification bell for good measure while you're at it. Feel free to ask any questions in the comment section. I'll try to get to it. Other than that, I'll catch you guys in the Solo Flawless guide, alright? Goodbye.